Welcome. I went to the Lord and I spent my hour talking to the Lord about what I was supposed to do this 3-part series on, and I gave up and went to the mailbox. And I picked up our monthly delivery of razors. And I got inspired by the Dollar Shave Club bathroom reader. Okay, so I'm doing this, and you're going to learn a lot. What I love about this one is the love-hate relationship or issue. And so you got the heart, gender neutral. The one heart's pulling on you, and the other's doing this. And I thought that was cute. And I'm like, what, pray tell, is the Dollar Shave Club telling men about love and hate? I have to know. So it's, anybody subscribe to the, no, nobody's in the Dollar Shave Club? Are you kidding? They're, okay, anyways. I'll write down. Okay, the first one is the Knife Thrower's Guide to Building Trust in a Relationship. Catch you. The second page is the beneficial things love does for your body. Well, we know like cortisol is the release of anxiety like I have right now. Or young love. You know, does she want roses? Does she want candy? I don't know, I'm going to do it, I'm going to screw up. Whatever I buy is going to be wrong, right? That anxiety love. But you also have oxytocin, which promotes attachment. It's in our bodies. And vasopressin, which promotes monogamy. It's in our bodies. It's the way God created us. It's pretty fun. Anyway, so I got to this one page on a divorce lawyer's guide to the perfect marriage. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to hear this. So I'll read it really quick. I'll kind of just in and out of stuff. He says, first point, okay, this is my 3 points. We're going to go to the first point today. First point, empathize. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. It's what people rarely do these days. He says, by putting yourself in the shoes of others, you may gain a better understanding and difference of opinions, and which in turn will help to prevent major confrontations. Well, I know that's true. Well, one thing, let me just back up. All these 3 points were biblical. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're straight from the Bible. Like, seriously, I was really impressed. So when I thought about like Todd and I, when we got together, we had to definitely put each other's shoes on because Todd came out of an untrusting relationship. So he had to get used to me. I'm high vasopressin, monogamy. I'm high in that chemical. I'm all about you, honey. Nobody else. All day long, I am loyal as any dog you'll ever find. You will never find anybody as loyal as me. And he wasn't used to that. He would have to, if I didn't text right back or I didn't call right back, he was tracking me to see where I was. He had a lot of problems with the past and learning to trust. And for me, he had to learn that I came from a family who didn't do hugs and touchy stuff, and I was in a very verbally abusive relationship, marriage before him. And then after that relationship, I was 5 years, nobody, no dating, 5 years. So when we got together, this was Todd, and this is me, because he couldn't wait for me to come home. He's like, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not used to this. I had to get used to me being in my own skin next to him. So we had to really work with each other because we both had issues that we were challenged with. So on the empathy part, it's biblical. Ephesians 4:2, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Well, I thought about this. What about people groups that we don't know or understand? How do we empathize with those people if we don't know them? I've been blessed to be most of my life outside the church, so I had no problems. I didn't have any real hang-ups of judging. So I have lesbian friends, and I sat down and I talked to them. And honestly, truthfully, most of them have had sexual abuse in their life. They've either been, it's a dad, an uncle, a brother, or all of the above. And they couldn't get past. They didn't go to counseling. They didn't do the steps they really needed to do to find healing in their heart. So they found just comfort in like gender. I met this cute little guy. He was like a Ronald McDonald, but short and old. He had fiery red hair. He was all tat and leathered, and just old, like old truck driver. he used to come up my aisle at Fry's. I worked for Fry's, and I used to just work one aisle. He would come and talk to me every week, and we got to be friends. He did my taxes. You know, he was just this cute little guy. One day, he comes up with this picture, and he goes, look. And I take the picture, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's adorable. And it was this little old lady. She had fishnet stockings, a red mini skirt, and she was looking all 70s sexy, if that's a thing. So, and I'm like, I look at her, and I start looking at him like, wait a minute. And he goes, yeah, that's me. I'm Dee Dee. I'm like, oh, wow. Whoa, okay, wow. They caught me off guard on that one. Okay, well, what's the story? Because there's always a story. And he proceeded to tell me that when he was younger, his mom wanted a girl, and his dad was a traveling salesman. So when he would leave, Dad would leave for 3 weeks, Mom would get out the sewing machine and make clothes for him to dress him up like a girl. And then every 3 weeks, just before Dad would come home, he would call on the rotary, ringy dingy ding ring, you know, I'm coming home tomorrow. They didn't have cell phones. To prepare Mom to get the house ready and have dinner because he's coming home after 3 weeks. Well, what Mom was doing was shoving everything away in the corners of the house and putting his boots on, putting his jeans on, putting his plaid shirt back on the boy to make him look like a boy for a week. And as soon as Dad went back out, all the girl clothes came back out, and he was taught to learn to act, talk, walk, play with girl toys, look like a girl. Almost his entire young life in the home was this. Empathy. I was, how do you recover from that? You were literally wired, screwed up. I had complete empathy for him. It's biblical. 100 times in the Bible, God commands us, or exhibits it, empathy towards others. One of my favorite verses, and probably the shortest one, John 11:35, Jesus wept. Remember Lazarus? He died. And even though Jesus knew he was going to bring him back to life, he himself had empathy for those that were mourning and in the mourning process. He felt the pain of others. He empathized and he cried. Even though he knew he was going to take this Lazarus back to life, just feeling their pain brought him to tears. I believe God gives us empathy by showing us a little bit of what other people go through. I had this situation last year. I was going through lava tubes with the kids up in Happy Jack, and I've never experienced an anxiety attack. I have no fear of anything. I just don't. I don't have anxiety about anything except this. It's preaching in front of people. So I'm in the lava tubes, I'm crawling around, and all the kids are going ahead of me. All the moms are like, I'm out of here. This is crazy. I'm out. And I'm like, I'm in. I'm all in. So I get in there, and I see the littlest kid is this. He's a little scrawny kid named Halo. He's like this tall, and he's like this. Anyways, he's walking, and then he's kind of tucking, and now he's crawling, and now he's scooting, and I'm right behind him. I can see him with his headlight, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these lava tubes. I'm like getting scraped up. It's tinier and tinier, and all of a sudden, I had an anxiety attack. I couldn't move. I literally felt like there was going to be shrapnel flesh of Tawnya all over the cave. Like I was going to explode. I had never experienced that in my life, and I was having a panic attack. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to pass out. The kids are going to be stuck in here because nobody's going to know how far. Like I had all the anxiety all over the place. I did get out, and I immediately called my daughter Sierra, who has anxiety attacks. And I went, oh my gosh, I think I have one of those. She goes, oh Mom, go ahead, explain it to me. Like a little counselor. And I explained it to her. She goes, yeah, Mom, I have that every day. Oh, empathy, over the top. How do people live with this type of anxiety? I had pure empathy for her. Another one, okay, we're going to group of men, but I'm sorry. I work upstairs doing stuff in the office at Fry's, and I get the 6 a.m. calls, everybody's calling in sick. There's usually like 20 people calling sick a day. And every month this one lady calls us sick with menstrual cramps. And the rest of us are like, really, get over it and get in here. You know, just get over it. I would have never known in my life how bad it was until I had a loved one holding her hair, puking in the toilet because the pain was so excruciating, her body wouldn't handle it. She literally was just vomiting and then went to a fetal position on the couch, just out for 3 days. The pain was so extreme. Literally, I went back and was like, I need to apologize for ever judging this one woman who monthly calls in because she probably has this situation, and I judged her. I now had empathy for her. 1 Peter 3:8. Finally, all of you should be in one mind, sympathizing with each other, loving one another as brothers and sisters, being tender-hearted and keeping a humble attitude, which is what I needed with this last one. I needed to be more humble. Now, my favorite empathizers are from Job 2:11 through 13. These friends, do you know these friends? Do you know about these friends? I don't have friends like this. Now, when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil had come upon them, they came each from their own place. I can't see their names or their places, so I'm going to skip that. They made an appointment together to come and sympathize with him. When they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him because he had been so physically just completely annihilated by this evil that had come upon him. When they saw him, they didn't recognize him. They raised their voices and wept. They tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads towards heaven. And they sat with him on the ground for 7 days and 7 nights, and no one said a word, for they saw how great his pain was. 7 days, think about it, think about you, 7 days and 7 nights on the ground, not speaking one word because you knew how much your friend was in this place of complete, terrible anxiety, pain, and suffering. Do you think you could do it? 7 days and no. I don't have any friends. I actually cried after I read that. So, why don't I have friends like that? I have friends like that. But that's a hard one. But I love these friends. When it comes to empathy, I think about missions because I hear a lot of people say, missions, I don't get it. I don't understand it. We have people here, sadly, those same people that say, we have people here that need to be taken care of. They don't take care of those people. So I kind of call them out on that. But 1 John 3:17, John asked, if anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can he have the love of God in him? Can it be in that person? Pity is this verse related to empathy. The person who has no pity on them. How can the love of God be in that person? Empathy. If we don't go get it, we're not going to have it. If we don't put ourselves in the messiness of the world around us, if we don't talk to cross-dressers and lesbians, if we don't go be missional across seas, that's where you find your empathy. That's where I found my empathy. I found it right at home, and I found it abroad. I know when I first went to Mexico with my daughter, it was pretty funny because Sierra and Michelle were both there, but I took all of Sierra's clothes off of her pretty much. I pretty much just stripped her. I felt so bad. It was so cold, and these kids had no shoes on, and I was giving my ski jacket away. I was like, Sierra, we're going to be across the border tomorrow. I'll just take your shoes. So Sammy, give me your coat too. Yeah, and it got down to the point where it had been Sierra's birthday, and nobody knew it was her birthday. She's just this little kid. And so everybody in our group was handing her $20 bills. So I got to the point where she didn't have any more clothes to give away. So I said, hey, give me that 20. Hand me that 20. Because we went to more far away, more desolate places where these people had nothing, and then minus nothing. And so I just started handing out 20s. And you should see the look on these people's faces. The little kids and the mom and dad, they just were taking the money like drop jaw that a stranger was just handing them 20s. And they're like, not in the city. They're not even outskirts of the city. They're way off. Like, this person came this far out to touch me financially, to help me out. That's because I had true empathy. But what about empathy to those who don't deserve it? The bossy kids, sorry, I'm always talking to children. The bad boss, angry, mean, nasty people out in the world. I want to share a quick story. I hope I have a little bit of time. Zach is this guy, Paul Zach. He is a neuroeconomist, and he does different experiments with people, social settings, and a little bit of the oxytocin is involved. He'll spray oxytocin into the nose of someone beforehand and then play a money game. And he'll find that 80% of the people that had this oxytocin sprayed into would give away their money. 80% were more likely to give away their money because of the oxytocin in their nose. So he did a lot of these experiments with people, groups, and social settings. One of the people that I found fascinating was Stephanie. Stephanie was the known, what was her? She was the goddess of greed on The Apprentice, the Donald Trump show. Anybody ever watch that? Okay, she was self-proclaimed the goddess of greed. He did a couple of different studies on her. He showed her a video of a 2-year-old boy dying of cancer. Now, in most other people, this prompted a high level of the oxytocin, or the attachment, or the empathy chemical in our body. With her, 9%. In the average person, 47%. She doesn't have the physiology of empathy that allows her, and that allows her to be more aggressive, more goddess of greed, you know. He also did a couple more tests on her. He found that she had really low testosterone levels, but she had high DHT levels, it's a high octane testosterone. And the DHT actually blocks the oxytocin from being able to do anything. So she was kind of broken. Wasn't her fault, right? And here's the clue that really was the catcher for him, her personal history. Oxytocin is released in what is called the, follow me, oxytocin-mediated empathy circuit. So the oxytocin-mediated empathy circuit. Research on women who endure repeated sexual abuse as children indicates this circuit does not function properly and in fact doesn't develop. So in Stephanie's case, her father was a high-rolling drug dealer, became a homeless junkie when she was small, and before she had finished high school, both of her parents had died of AIDS. This was not her fault. She was not the goddess of greed because of her own power. She was originally broken in her social setting. She became the person, actually it's kind of a protection that our body does. In that brokenness in that circuit, it was to protect her because as a little girl she was not going to be hurt again. So she rose up in this brokenness with this DHT level. It's interesting how God makes our bodies. Isn't it crazy? But what I'm about is finding like prevenient empathy, like empathy that people don't deserve. You don't know what's happened to the guy who's the big jerk on the block. You don't know what's happened to the lady. You don't know what happens to these people. And so I'm just asking you guys in this first of 3 series is to think about grace, being empathetic, the way God gives us prevenient grace, to give empathy and to get to know people and get to understand where they are and why they are in the place that they are. So Lord, we'll just close with this. Lord, please let us go out and be amongst the people and learn from them and love them in their places and walk with them and show them your love, Jesus.